capabilities are very much built on the composition of knowledge, I think that mashups are a really powerful thing because they actually work well with, they're kind of a tool that fits really well with the way our minds work. So for me, the advent of mashups is a really powerful thing for the web, and it's going to create very dramatic changes in the way the web gets used in the next 10 years. So I put together a little widget hierarchy. It's not something we need to spend a lot of time on, but basically we're moving from very simple things like clocks and screensavers and things like that to widgets that can take information from lots of different sources and compose them together. And it's really in that space that all of the innovation, I think, is going to take place, and where there are opportunities for startups to do some really clever things. Yes? Oh, we lost our. We lost our video. Well, I'll keep on talking, and we'll get the video up as soon as we can. All right. So, yeah. Hmm? Oh. Do you think it's coming from?
Yeah.
All right, let's see what happens. It was displaying earlier, right? It never. Okay. All right.
I thought you had the screen like that.
All right. So let me just. I wasn't paying attention. Oh. Progress. Okay. Well. Progress. Yay. So I. All right. Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, just very briefly, I think that there's no controversy here, but very quickly we've kind of seen that widgets are moving into this space of being composable and configurable, and that's where I think there's going to be a lot of activity in the coming years. I wanted to have a little bit of fun discussing, mashup problems, and not just online, but in the real world. And so, I thought that the MySpace templates were a really interesting example of where mashups kind of can go wrong, just because they provide so much freedom that people were showing us how poorly they know how to design things. There was a brief period where Google would display your address and phone number based on white pages information if you Google yourself, and they got so many complaints that they actually took the feature down. And even though there's like half a dozen other websites that provide exactly the same function, but Google is so ubiquitous and upfront and used by so many people that the visibility of the white pages information on Google was just incredibly upsetting to people. So that's a very interesting example of experiments that, although they make sense and they're legal and public, and they're basically removed by popular demand. And then, actually, at the most recent Black Hat conference, there was results from, I think, some researchers at CMU who were explaining that it was possible to reverse engineer Social Security numbers from birth dates. And in particular, In smaller states like Delaware or Hawaii, where there's not huge amounts of birth on any given day, you could get, like within, 10 tries, you could nail down or the Social Security just by sequentially looking through numbers. So this is an example, I think, of something that may have seemed elegant at the time, which was to allocate Social Security numbers with a lot of semantics bound into the numbers, because the Social Security number says something about where you were born and when you were born. When Social Security numbers were first created in the 30s, that didn't seem like it would cause any kind of trouble. And there was no precedent for Social Security numbers or any number like that being used for identification or for storing valuable information about you. It's kind of like a warning when it comes to designing systems, that it's very hard to predict in advance how your information is going to be used. So sometimes, your clever hacks can be exploited against you ultimately. So I talked briefly a week ago or so about how you might set up an account database for a service that you're putting together. And we covered kind of all of the very basic aspects of the things that you'd want to put in an account database. And I figured that this is actually a good time to talk about it a little bit, because it's really in the mashup environment that you start meeting people coming from all sorts of different sources.